Rumble, I'm there, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got so much to get to today, so deep into this progressive abyss, says a Democrat, a former Democrat. She tells her party to go pound sand, and she actually joins the GOP. Oh, another one. Another one bites the dust. Woo! So another Democrat is out there switching sides. Who have we got now? RFK Jr., we've got Elon Musk, we've got this woman now. So she says, quote, so deep into the progressive abyss. She says they've gone so far down this rabbit hole where they're transing kids. Once you realize the reality of so-called gender-affirming care, especially for kids, it becomes nearly impossible for a rational person to like support this kind of party. So, she says, nope, this isn't the party for me anymore. We're going to get to that story. Plus, we're going to get to this woke mayor. This is the mayor in not Aurora, but Denver, Colorado. So you guys know, if you tuned in yesterday, I talked extensively about the Venezuelan migrants who are holding an apartment building. This is an act of terrorism. Kamala Harris has yet to come out and speak about it. Now we're seeing something very similar happen in Chicago, in the city of Chicago. 32 Venezuelan migrants are holding up, quite literally taking control of an apartment building in Chicago. There was a frantic, urgent 911 call. Last night, this happened in Chicago. A few days ago, it happened in Aurora, Colorado. So I'm going to compare and contrast the two mayors here. There's a woke mayor from Denver, and then there's the Aurora mayor who's freaking out about the Venezuelan migrants taking over an entire apartment complex. But before we get into any of that, I saw this clip. Tyranny always comes in the name of compassion. We're going to talk about how Kamala said that she's going to try to shut down X. A Harris Walls ticket means no more free speech. None. So let's take a listen to this woman. She's with Young Americans for Freedom. And she's actually from North Korea. And she talks about how, tyranny, it always starts with compassion.
Tyranny always comes in the name of compassion and equality of outcomes. When I was at Columbia, they are brainwashing my classmates saying education should be free. Healthcare is a human right. How unfair is it that there are billionaires and there are homeless people? It should be we are all equal. This same idea began the living hell of North Korea. When Kim Il-sung came to my grandmother's and my grandfather, he said this to exact thing to us. How unfair is that? They are landowners. They are capitalists. And how unfair is that your children cannot be educated? You need to pay for it. If you give me the power, Kim Il-sung said, I'm going to make everything free. Government was going to provide everything for us. If we just gave up our private property, our freedom of speech, our freedom of movement,
Tyranny always comes in the name of compassion. This was a brilliant clip, and to piggyback off of that, Kamala Harris is for sure going to support what happened in Brazil, where they pretty much shut down X. They shut down the platform X. How do I know that? Well, because she said it. Here we go.
And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop. He has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that
freedom of speech is on the ballot. Freedom of speech. If Tim Walz and Kamala Harris get in, they're going to take down X, which is quite literally the only platform we have left that doesn't do this content moderation and doesn't bend the knee. I mean, quite literally, we had Mark Zuckerberg come out and say and apologize, hey, I'm sorry for censoring Americans on Facebook. The Biden administration wanted me to do it, so I did it. X is quite literally the only platform we have. And she says it. I mean, one more time. Let's
You
take
can't
a
say
listen.
that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power.
Here's the
They
scary
are
part.
directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight.
Oh no. Oh no. A platform where anybody can say anything and reach millions of people without any oversight or regulation. It's got to stop, according to Kamala Harris. I wanted to share that with you today because that is freaky. That is scary. Tim Walz, never forget that he is the Minnesota governor who quite literally set up a snitch line for people to call in and snitch on their neighbors who weren't following COVID lockdowns or mandates. If they weren't wearing a mask alone in their car, somebody would call and say, "Hey, Tim Walz, you better go sick the police on these guys." It's a police state. You've got Tim Walz on this ticket, and he quite literally set up a hotline for individuals to snitch on their neighbors if they weren't following the government rules. This is craziness. I do want to get to this story. A Democrat leaving the Democrat Party and becoming a member of the GOP, joining the GOP. The fact that policies like promoting sex changes, look, people don't, any rational person at this point is not going to say, yes, I'm for that. Policies like promoting sex changes for vulnerable children are up for debate, and that proves how much society has fallen. Not even 10 years ago, would we have been having this debate. Hey, should we allow children to have their genitals mutilated? I mean, we're having this debate today in 2024. Not even 10 years ago, this debate would have been unheard of. But apparently the left claims that this is somehow a right. And they're demanding the masses to affirm these sex changes as anything but Frankenstein surgeries and surgeons butchering up these kids. They want us to think that this is a right and that this is affirming their gender. No, what it really is, it's a bunch of Frankenstein quack doctors who are butchering up children and cutting them up. That's what this is. And once you realize the reality of gender affirming care, that it is not affirming a kid's gender and that this is literally butchering your kids, it kind of makes it hard to support that kind of thing, to support the party fighting to mandate this. And believe me, I've said it before, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, if they get in, that's going to be day one. Day one, they do a sweeping executive order saying that any child can go get a sex change anywhere, and probably we're going to federally fund it as taxpayers. So the fact that policies like promoting sex changes for vulnerable children is up for debate is scary. It's freaky. According to the Texan, State Representative Sean Tyree, now this is a woman, she's switching parties to the GOP. She announced this on Friday at a Washington, D.C. event held by Moms for Liberty. So she is a Democrat out of Houston. And she said that this party has veered so far to the left, quote, so deep into the progressive abyss, they're now champions of policies that I cannot in good conscience support. Policies like promoting sex changes for vulnerable children and dismantling Title IX protections for women in sports. That's why I'm leaving the left and I'm joining the party of faith, family, and freedom. So Sean Tyree, Democrat out of Houston. She's just a state representative, not a congresswoman or anything, but this is huge. Just imagine how many voters would do the same if the media weren't so awful at their jobs and if they were actually truthful and if they actually showed you what procedures. I think everybody would be pro-life if the media actually did their due diligence and proved that Planned Parenthood people were actually selling baby parts. By the way, Kamala Harris, I'm not going to give this up. Kamala Harris actually went after the people who recorded these Planned Parenthood criminals who were selling baby parts. Okay, she didn't go after the people selling the baby parts, which is a felony, by the way. She went after the people who recorded and exposed the Planned Parenthood activists who were selling these baby parts. She went after those people for illegally, recording them. That's the type of person Kamala Harris is. But imagine it. I think everybody would be pro-life. I think no one would be for these child sex changes. No one, if the media actually did their job and showed you the truth about what those surgeries and what those procedures look like. So government officials get less of a pass. I give Americans a lot of passes, and especially now I've changed my kind of worldview on people who are leftist, deranged leftists. I was in the parade the other day and I saw all kinds of Labor Day parade put on by the unions. And I saw a lot of Harris signs out in Bloomington. And, I can't even begin to think, why would you do this? Why do they know? And they don't know. So I give these people a pass a lot of the time because the media, they're so brainwashed by the media, and they wake up in the morning, they have their cup of coffee and they watch CBS or they watch NBC. And it's really unfortunate that they don't have an alternative news source. That's why this program is so important for you to share out with your friends. Okay, if you know a coworker who is got a Biden-Harris sign in their, or a Harris sign in their yard, at this point, the old Biden-Harris signs, they might as well just put some duct tape over it. I mean, the economy's pretty rough. To buy a new sign is pretty tough. But if you want to get a piece of duct tape and just duct tape over Biden, and then you'll have a Harris sign, right? Your old Biden-Harris sign that you had for the primary. But I give these people a pass a lot of the time because they are so brainwashed by the media. I don't even think it's really them who believes it. They're just regurgitating at this point all of the nonsense that they hear on the TV. And unfortunately, they haven't been exposed to programs like Conservative Cat. I do want to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll talk about how, government officials, they get less of a pass because they're making the laws. They need to be in tune with this stuff. They need to understand if they're making laws about it. They need to understand that these procedures, the gender affirming care, is actually Frankenstein surgeries, Frankenstein surgeons who are butchering up children. They need to educate themselves outside of the media. They have a responsibility because they're government officials. And that's what this woman did. She realized, hey, if I'm making laws about gender affirming care, maybe I should figure out what that looks like and what the side effects are. And that's what this woman did. And she did her homework, and she did the important thing, which was leave the Democrat Party, join the GOP. And now she stands with her colleagues, friends, neighbors, women, and mothers in the Republican Party. That's what she said, the former Democrat in Texas. She's a state representative. So I'm going to be back. I'm going to tell you the response of the Democratic Caucus chair, Trey Martinez Fisher, in San Antonio. He's the Democrat House chair, like he's leadership there with their legislative house. And he tries to blast this woman, but he fails epically. So we're going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Find me on social media. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate it. I'm glad that we got to meet SD. If you remind me where I saw you in the parade, I would probably be able to put a face to the comment. But it was great. It was great meeting everybody the other day. It was a hot day, or a beautiful day. It was like warm and breezy. It was very nice. And I was in the Labor Day parade, and all I kept thinking to myself was, man, this Labor Day parade. Oh, great to meet you guys. Yes. I thought I met you. I saw so many listeners at the Labor Day parade. Nice to meet you at Kroger's. Yep, that's what I was at Kroger. We went to the lake house. I was picking up stuff for our party over the weekend. It was a gorgeous weekend. But I was at the Labor Day parade, and I was thinking about, and all I kept thinking about was, man, this parade, they couldn't really figure out how to close down the streets and everything. And it was really like a big Democrat party. Cody Hendricks, who's running for mayor in Bloomington, was there. I saw him walk into one of the establishments. Dan Brady, he was in the parade. He's running for Bloomington. If those are our options, wow, that really sucks. I'm glad that I live in Lincoln, although my mayor is not the best choice either. There's not a whole lot of choices on the ballot, which is why I think that more and more people should wake up and say, hey, if I want to be the change that I want to see in the world, I want to be the change that I see in the world or want to see in the world, and I'm going to run for office. I think more and more people should be doing that. But really, it was put on by the labor unions, the parade, which it was a beautiful parade. It was great, and a lot of people were there. I've never seen so many people at a Labor Day parade. Now, at a Christmas parade, sure. At a Labor Day parade, and maybe there's a couple of reasons why it was gorgeous outside, like I said. But number two, free entertainment for the children, right? You're looking for cost-effective ways to keep the kids busy on Labor Day when they're out of school. So they brought him to the parade. So there were tons of people at the parade in central Illinois, Bloomington. That's where I'm from. And I'm going to attribute it to the Joe Biden economy. Like everything else, they're looking for cheap labor or cheap entertainment. I put up in my social media the other day, I said, hey, happy Labor Day to all of those who actually make a living providing a product or a good or service. And I'm not saying happy Labor Day to those of you who work in the public sector and just suckle at the taxpayer teat and live off the taxpayer. No, I'm not saying happy Labor Day to you, because you just take our money and then you give it to people who don't deserve it. So happy Labor Day to those of you who actually work for a living and provide a product or service that is good, because anything that the government creates is just it all turns to crap, as President Donald Trump says. Everything that the government touches turns to crap. Think about the worst phone calls you want to make. You don't want to talk to the auto dealers, right? That is a very heavily regulated industry, along with the healthcare industry. That's you regret calling the doctor. You are regretting that phone call. I know you are. Or airlines. All of these industries are heavily regulated. They're not complete government. And now think about complete government would be like the DMV, right? Nobody wants to go to the DMV. It sucks. Everything the government touches absolutely sucks. So EVs, electric vehicles, they're mandating that on, of course, Rivian in my town. And, I'm sure they have to meet a quota in order to get those government checks. Not to mention, they're giving out all kinds of tax credits to people to buy EVs. This is a highly regulated, highly subsidized industry, the vehicle industry, right? Cars, and you can see the value or how crappy it is because of customer service. And airlines are another one, highly regulated by the government. Pete Buttigieg, you have him to thank for when your flight is canceled or delayed. It's because it's run by the government. Everything the government touches is crappy. Healthcare, don't even get me started. Okay, so when we come back, we are going to finish up this story about the Democrat leaving the Republican Party. Also want to talk about this. This is very important because we're going to start seeing this ramp up, and it's kind of freaky. I woke up this morning and I was quite literally in fear. And that doesn't really happen to me because I've been very immune, I guess, to the news. But this is scary. And, I'm talking to my fiance and I was like, this is a little creepy. What do you think? Are they going to start busting into people's houses next? What should we do to prepare? That's what's going on in my mind. At this point, I've got my Coors Light stacked up. I got my, no, I don't have an AR-15. I lost in a boating accident. I've got my guns, and I am like patiently waiting for somebody to break into my house and hold it. hold us hostage, because that's what's happening in Aurora, Colorado, Chicago. My fiance calms me down and he says, I think it's just going to happen in these, Democrat cities where there's a lot of these migrants being shipped. So this woke mayor is all peeved off at the residents, saying these mean things about the newcomers, aka illegal aliens. Okay, they're illegal aliens. They're not migrants. They're not immigrants. They're illegal aliens. They're hopping over the border quite literally, and then they're being shipped to these Democrat cities. So I got talked off the edge. Okay, I was freaking out because this is bad. This is terrorism at a level we haven't seen since 9/11. So we're going to get to that story here next on Conservative Cat. Go ahead, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me in Rumble. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every day, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. That is a live show, daily live show, Conservative Cat. Now, a little bit of housekeeping going on, okay? Housekeeping things. I do want to inform you that today is my last day for a couple of weeks. I am going to the Bahamas. I am getting married. A lot of you know that. But I will be gone until the 16th. Now, we are going to plug in some Hugh Hewitt for you. We love Hugh Hewitt. Hugh Hewitt is a great show host. He's live in the morning. I'm putting you in great hands with Hugh. So you'll have some content in the morning. I will still be doing some small lives on my YouTube channel while I'm away as often as I can. But I am going to be gone for the daily show for a couple of weeks as I am getting married. So I'm very excited, going to South Carolina, then going to the Bahamas, lots of traveling. So big prayers, wish me luck. It's always fun to go down south because crazy things like this story don't happen down south. And I was kind of freaked out this morning. I was telling my fiance, I was like, I'm a little freaked out. This feels like acts of terrorism and active terrorism that we haven't really seen since 9/11. We're starting to see particularly Venezuelan migrants take over, and I call them migrants. Really what they are, they're illegal aliens. They're not newcomers, as the mayor of Denver, Colorado had suggested. He's really pissed off that residents are saying mean things about these Venezuelans who quite literally are holding an apartment and residents in that apartment kind of hostage. They've taken it over. It's been overrun by violent Venezuelan gangs. And this is scary because it's starting to happen here in Illinois, Chicago. This happened last night, where in a separate apartment. So this is freaky, where you've got Venezuelan gangs. Now, my prediction, I've been talking about these sleeper cells for quite some times, where you've got all these illegal aliens, and one day they're going to be told by their government, hey, we're invading now. I mean, we have 10 million people who have crossed illegally over the border since Joe Biden has been president. This is an invasion. And maybe one day they're told by their leader, the Venezuelan dictator over there, Maduro, hey, we're taking over America now. Today is the day. And then they take over everybody's households. They hold hostage Americans in their own country. I mean, this is not far-fetched, okay, because this is happening. We saw in California some migrants, Venezuelans particularly, they were holding up a couple of school buses. This happened on 2 separate occasions. School buses full of children. And now we see an apartment building overrun by Venezuelan gangs in Aurora, Colorado. Now we're seeing it in Chicago. It was an urgent 911 call. They're freaking out. You can hear the cops. And yeah, it's a little scary. Now, my prediction is that this is going to happen in liberal cities. So if you're not in a liberal city, I think you're going to be all right. But this is going to happen in major liberal cities, Democrat cities, and I think if you're rural, you'll be okay. I woke up this morning and I said, what do we have to do to prepare? Should we be locking down our doors? Should we be preparing for Venezuelans or for illegal aliens, foreigners invading American households? Should we be preparing for that? I think we're going to be all right for quite some time. I think it's going to start out in these Democrat cities, and then it might progress to where they go rural, and then they take over some rural land. That would be the smart thing to do, because then you've got control of food, you've got control of agriculture and land, and you've got the ability to house artillery there. I know this is maybe conspiracy theory for you right now, but I mean, you've got multiple Venezuelan gangs taking over multifamily buildings all over the country at this point. And our commander in chief, our vice president, have yet to come out and talk about these armed gangs who are overrunning apartment buildings across the country. I mean, they're wreaking havoc on these law-abiding citizens, law-abiding Americans who live in these apartment buildings, and government officials are out there not doing anything. Rather, we've got the mayor of Colorado kind of shaming people who speak out against this. And, you know, he refers to these illegal aliens as newcomers. That's the Denver mayor, Mike, I think it's Mike Johnston. Yes, Johnston is victim blaming, and he's concerned about hurting the feelings of these violent thugs who shouldn't even be here. And this is an act of terrorism. When is the commander in chief going to come out and speak about this? I don't know. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this woman. She left the Democrat Party because she cannot rationalize it in her head. The gender affirming care. She says promoting sex changes for vulnerable children and dismantling Title IX protections for women in sports. I can't be a part of this party anymore. I can't do it. So she left, and she's joining the party of Family, Faith, and Freedom. That's what she said in a release. And, you know, just imagine the voters, right? I think most voters would say, I don't like gender affirming care. If they were to know what that entails, what gender affirming care actually looks like, what it does to young children, how it's irreversible, if they actually knew, and if the media told them the truth about that, about abortions, how they're performed, how they quite literally rip the limbs of children from the womb and pull them apart piece by piece. If the media was honest and factual, then I think most people would be pro-life, and I also think most people would be they would be against the gender affirming care. And the government officials, they have less of a pass. Okay, I say that, you know, oh, these voters, they don't really understand, they don't really know because the media has brainwashed them. Government officials, I'm sorry, you have no excuse because you're making laws about these things. You really need to educate yourself. And this woman did. She went out, she actually educated herself. There's government officials who have not educated themselves, and those are the Democrats, right? Where they don't know what this procedure entails, or they do know and they're just evil and they're keep promoting it. So the Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair, Trey Martinez Fisher, he bid Sean Terry, who is the state representative who left the Democrat Party for the GOP, he bid her adieu, saying, quote, if Sean Tyree looks at a party taking the freedom of women to taking away the freedom for women to control their bodies, cutting healthcare for millions, and led by a racist petty convict, and says, I want in on that mess, I think that says more about Sean Tyree than it does the Democratic Party. Adios. So he says, oh, you know, if she looks at the party that's taking away freedom for women to control their bodies, the party that's cutting health care for millions, the party that's led by a racist petty convict, go ahead, go join him. That's what he says to about Sean Tyree, who left the Democrat Party. You know, and this woman, she's black, the state representative here. And I don't know what, aren't we supposed to be uplifting black women anymore? I mean, this is her opinion. She thinks that sex changes for vulnerable children is wrong, and that promoting that is wrong. Is this really, how can he take the phrase faith, family, and freedom? She says that, hey, I'm going to be standing with my colleagues, my friends, my neighbors, the women and mothers of the Republican Party. This is the party of faith, family, and freedom. How can he take that phrase, family, faith, and freedom, and pretend it has anything to do with child sex changes or with abortion? So to him, it's all about fighting for women's rights. Unless those women are in the womb, those babies are in the womb, then he's not for fighting for women's rights. And if they're playing against men in sports, then he's not for women's rights and speaking for women's rights. He's only for women's rights. He's only for freedom for women when it comes to aborting children. That's the only freedom he wants to protect. He doesn't want to protect the life of women in the womb. He doesn't want to protect women playing in sports against men. And really, what this is all about, and the reason why she fled the Democrat Party, was because it doesn't want mandatory sex changes for minors. And this progressive abyss that they've fallen in, these Democrats, they've gone so far left where they want to mandate these things for children. And people are saying, no, this wasn't even a conversation 10 years ago, and now you're wanting to mandate it. A mandate where people have to go give, otherwise we're going to take your children away from you if you don't give them gender affirming care, if you don't mutilate their bodies. I think the mandatory sex changes tells you all you really need to know about the Democrat Party. Okay. And the fact that they had to they selected an unpopular candidate, somebody who didn't even win in a primary, didn't even win her own state in a primary when she ran for president. She's such an unpopular candidate. Nobody wanted her. And I think that's all you really need to know about the Democrat Party, that they were willing to just completely subvert the democratic process and install an unpopular candidate that no one wanted. I think that says more about the Democrat Party. So yes, the left has become more unhinged, and as they become more unhinged, we're going to see more and more people flee the Democrat Party and go to the Republican Party. Okay, so I do have to take a break, but I do want to get to this story because this is going to be the most important story probably of your lifetime. I mean, I don't know why there isn't media outrage about it. The NBCs, the ABCs, the CNNs, they're not covering this. And that's freaky. This is the worst thing about an open border and sanctuary city policies, is that we now have Americans who are suffering, and subsequently the very people who vow that they're all in to help the little guy, right? We've got the Democrats. Yes, we're all in it for the little guy. They're encouraging some of the most evil people in policies that America has ever seen. This is an evil policy because now you have Venezuelan gangs violently taking over apartment buildings around the country now. This has happened on 2 separate occasions, last night in Chicago, a few days ago in Aurora, Colorado. Now, I guess, you've got these people in Aurora, Colorado. I highly doubt any of them, they might have voted Democrat, but I highly doubt any of them wanted to have their multifamily buildings taken over by illegal armed gangs. I don't think that they voted for that. I don't think that the residents of Aurora, Colorado are very happy about that. But this is a reality for them. So we've got to take a quick break. But you're listening to Conservative Gat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Kamala is having a girl moment on stage, and no matter how dependent the left is on the vibes, that doesn't cut it for undecided voters. Okay, her and her girl moments, the whole queen boss energy, where she's like, "I'm speaking, I'm speaking." That's not going to cut it for the undecided voters. There's actually MSNBC. They reached out to mixed race voters. These people are so racist, but they reached out to them and they asked them for their genuine thoughts on Kamala. And this mixed race woman, I don't know. It's so weird that people refer to women and men as like black woman. I hate the identity politics. It just feels so racist to even talk about this. But I guess MSNBC really wanted to know what mixed race voters really thought about Kamala Harris. So she says, "Look, I have no kinship." So the question from MSNBC was, "Hey, do you have any kind of kinship with Kamala Harris, being that she's also a mixed race woman?" My goodness, these people are so racist. They couldn't be more racist if they tried. Now, we're going to get to this story. MSNBC asking these mixed race voters this question. This woman, out of the group of mixed race voters, she shared her opinions and she said, "Look, her having a giggling moment, having a girl moment up on stage, that's not what I want in a president. That's not my brand of woman." And she said, "We've got 3 major international crises going on, and somebody applying to be the commander in chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than just giggle or have a girl moment on stage or have good vibes or wear Converse and buy Doritos." Okay. That's what they're making Kamala Harris's campaign all about. It's all about the vibes. It's all about the joy. It's all about her wearing Converse and buying Doritos. See, she's just like you. She's just cool. She's hip. And these undecided voters, they're not falling for it. This mixed race candidate, she's actually running as a congressional candidate in North Carolina. She shared her opinions on Harris. And, the voters aren't as dumb as the left thinks they are. They really aren't. They're not going to be fooled by these stupid little platitudes of fake joy, skin color, as if any of that matters. None of that matters when we're dealing with 3 international crises on our hands. So we're going to get to that story. We're also going to get to the Colorado, Chicago apartments being overrun by Venezuelan migrants. This is the top story of the day. I mean, is this an act of terrorism? I think so. 32 armed Venezuelan migrant gangsters just took over an apartment building in Chicago last night. That was last night, a few days ago. That happened in Colorado. What does the Denver, Colorado mayor have to say about it? Well, he's pissed. He's upset about the residents saying, "Oh, we're not happy about these armed Venezuelan gang members overrunning our multifamily housing. We're not happy about that. We don't want them in our apartment building." And guess what this woke mayor does? He's upset that they're saying mean things about the so-called newcomers. Well, newsflash, woke mayor from Denver, they're called illegal aliens. Okay, they're not newcomers. And you need to get your head out of your butt and start fixing this. Get your Democrat pals to address the failed policy at the southern border, because we're dealing with terrorism. Mike Johnston is the guy from Denver, the Colorado mayor there, Denver, Colorado. And he's more concerned about hurting the feelings of violent thugs who shouldn't even be there, by the way. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. We'll be back next.
Tax and Accounting Plus offers effective accounting and bookkeeping to take your business to the next level. They're pros at preparing your financial records and reports, allowing you to focus on your business and become more profitable.
News brought to you by me, Ryan Swartz, sponsors from Slapjack. Here's some news most people wait until the trip and fall. Concrete before they call me. Call me before that happens, and I'll level on how to fix it. Staffers are securing jobs at the Decatur prison ahead of the expected Logan County prison closure. Kat Peterson reports.
State Representative Jim Calkins confirmed employees from Logan County Correctional Center have started to transfer to Decatur.
Trying to get ahead of this closure.
The Illinois Department of Corrections said that they're not currently under a hiring freeze at either Stateville Prison nor Logan County Correctional. Stateville prisoners must transfer due to a recent court ruling. The department said they're discussing the impact of that order on IDOC employees with labor partners. Earlier this summer, during a Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability hearing at Lincoln Junior High School, AFSCME Local 31 Deputy Director Mike Newman said the IDOC has given little consideration to announcing the closure and to move the Logan facility years in advance.
It will be extremely difficult to retain current staff and bring in new staff to Logan going forward.
I'm Katrina Peterson.
Nicholas Moreland, 32, wanted in Tazewell County, now faces new charges in McLean County after his arrest early Sunday. Moreland is charged with the unlawful use of weapons, aggravated
Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Thanks so much for being here today. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to play this clip. It's a little bit longer, but you guys are definitely going to want to stick around because we are in a time where foreign nationals are wreaking havoc on law-abiding Americans, and they're getting better treatment than Americans. They're wreaking havoc on Americans, but yet they're getting better treatment from the government. Government officials are shaming people who speak out against Venezuelan migrants, And these people are foreign nationals. They're taking over apartment buildings. So this has happened around the country now. They're not newcomers. They're illegal aliens, and they're wreaking havoc on Americans. They're armed. They're gangsters. They're breaking into apartment buildings and holding them up, much like the school buses that happened on two separate occasions in California, same school district. But they held up, not held up with guns, but they broke into these school buses and they had backpacks on. They frightened the children. These school buses were full of children. So when is the commander-in-chief, when is the border czar going to talk about this? Is she going to talk about or mention the alien takeover in Colorado or in Chicago? She never will. She never will. And all of this only happened after she became the border czar. Always remember that. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Welcome to the Red Kingdom. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. And before we took the break, I was telling you about Aurora. I want to get to this because the worst thing about open borders and sanctuary city policies is that Americans suffer, and they are the ones who suffer the most under these policies. The very people who vow that they're all in it for the little guy, they are encouraging some of the most evil people and policies that America has ever seen. Okay, these same people, the Democrats, who say, oh, we're all in it for the little guy, they're making the little guy suffer. These people in these multifamily housing units, these apartment buildings, these residents in Aurora, Colorado, and now in Chicago, they're not like richy rich. They're not the uber wealthy. They're the little guy, and they're suffering. Not one or no one in Aurora, Colorado, probably voted for, Venezuelan gangs to overrun their apartment buildings. Okay, not one person is for that. And unfortunately, that's becoming the status quo in Colorado, in places like Chicago. We've got violent Venezuelan gangs who are armed. This has become a reality for residents there. They are overrunning these apartments, and Mayor Mike Kaufman, I'm going to play one mayor for you. Mayor Mike Kaufman is from Aurora. Okay, he said many multifamily buildings have been taken over by illegal armed gangs, and he has blamed the failed policy at the southern border. Take a listen to this clip. It's a little bit longer, but then we're going to contrast his remarks with the Denver, Colorado mayor, who is now victim blaming. And he's more concerned about hurting the feelings of violent Venezuelan illegals with guns who are overrunning these apartments, the little guys' apartments. Take a listen.
Aurora, Colorado. Mayor, thank you very much for coming on with us. It seems it's tough to even get some confirmation of the details of what is going on there. First off, can you confirm whether or not this gang has taken over these buildings there in Aurora?
So there are several buildings actually under the same ownership, out-of-state ownership, that have fallen to these Venezuelan gangs. I'm trying to walk it back and do the investigation as to how there's a concentration of Venezuelans in these three buildings. Somebody put them there, and somebody funded it. Whether it's federal government or not, we're trying to find out who. These gangs apparently are attracted to where there's a concentration of Venezuelan migrants. And so they've in fact have kind of pushed out the property management through intimidation and then collected the rents. We have now or have had, it is ongoing operations with a task force of local law enforcement, state law enforcement partners and federal law enforcement partners to root them out, and arrests have been made, but these operations are still ongoing.
With the arrests that have been made, are these confirmed gang-affiliated members?
This is an organized criminal effort. Whether it's Tren de Aragua, that remains to be seen. But it really doesn't matter. I mean, if they're Venezuelan migrants and they're conducting crime in an organized manner, they're a problem.
So, okay, so you're able to confirm that this Venezuelan gang has indeed taken over at least some of the buildings. You're saying at least two of the three. And what I just heard from you is you don't know how they ended up there. And you even made a suggestion that they could have been sent there by federal officials. I heard you suggest. Well, I mean, do you have any reason to believe that to be the case?
So here's the problem. I think we're a victim of a failed policy at the southern border, because what you have, Venezuela does not according to my law enforcement, Venezuela does not cooperate with the United States in sharing criminal histories. You've had a third of the country leave. You've had these massive waves of migrants coming across the border that many of them crossed the border illegally, were arrested, asked for political asylum, were not adequately vetted, were released into the country. The city of Aurora, we did everything we could to quite frankly keep them out of the city, because it's not our problem. This is a federal problem. This is a problem borne by the federal government. But what we're trying to find out, and what I believe occurred, was that federal agencies worked with some of our local nonprofits and put them there. Now,
all right, so that's huge. He's suggesting that the federal government has been working with nonprofit organizations, and these nonprofit organizations have put these Venezuelan migrants there in these apartments and have encouraged them to overrun. And now I don't know if they are aware that they're armed and that they are taking over these apartments in a hostile manner, in a terroristic way. I don't know if these nonprofits are aware of that, or if these nonprofits told them to do that in that way. Perhaps they just said, hey, here's a housing stipend, go to this apartment and they should be able to get you housed here. I don't know how this is all playing out, but the point is that this mayor in Aurora, Colorado, where these hostile takeovers have happened, this terrorist activity has happened, these Venezuelan migrants have gone in armed and are telling citizens and residents to leave the apartment building. We're taking it over now. We're running it as our own. That's terrorism. That's quite literally an act of terrorism. Now, I don't know if what extent the nonprofits' role have in that, and what extent the federal government, their role is in on this as well. But compare those statements to the statement that of Denver, Colorado mayor. He's also a Mike, but it's a different Mike comparatively. Denver Mike Johnston. He's victim blaming, and he's more concerned about the feelings of these violent thugs who shouldn't even be here, by the way. These violent thugs should not be here. Take a listen to what he had to say. Here we go.
The rules, and we hold those folks accountable. We actually know historically it's always true that we have lower levels of crime around migrants than we do among our general population. So there's a risk of misperception. Some of this population is more dangerous, causing more trouble. That's just factually not true, but we are aware of it. We have overt and covert operations going every day to intervene, and where we know there are risks, we're going to be aggressive about making arrests, about pressing charges, and if needing, deporting folks. But I think the much bigger risk is that you'll have a perception that all of the newcomers in the city are dangerous, and nothing could be farther from the truth. Any population, you'll have very small.
Newcomers. I love that. I love that term that he uses. Who would have thought that we'd be living in a time where foreign nationals are wreaking havoc on law-abiding citizens, where they get better treatment, and the government officials start to shame those who dare speak out against this and say, hey, I really don't like it when illegal aliens come into my apartment building and tell me to leave in the middle of the night, and they have an armed and they're armed with weaponry. Okay, these are not newcomers. These are illegal aliens, and they're wreaking havoc on Americans. And the fact that the government is welcoming them into this, sanctuary, this fake sanctuary, is tyrannical. Okay, they're welcoming them. And this is tyrannical. Denver cannot even fix their own homeless apocalypse. I have a friend who went there recently, and they were telling us how this place, Denver, Colorado, is disgusting. How there's homeless people everywhere, and it's just complete carnage there. And they have a homeless apocalypse there, and they haven't been able to keep that under control. How are they going to convince us that they can take care of this issue right now with the illegal immigrants? How are they convinced that they can take on the world's problems? Oh, the newcomers. We welcome all. We welcome the newcomers. The fact that this guy remains in office is a scandal. He's calling these illegal immigrants who are wreaking havoc on these poor people in these apartment buildings. He's calling them newcomers. Call them for what they are. They're illegal aliens, and you should no longer be in office. The mayor claiming he's concerned with American speech as well, because he said this. Here, let's play it one more time.
Subsets of folks that don't follow the rules, and we hold those folks accountable. We actually know historically it's always true that we have lower levels of crime around migrants than we do among our general population. So there's a risk of misperception. Some of this population is more dangerous, causing more trouble. That's just factually not true, but we are aware of it. We have overt and covert operations going every day to intervene, and where we know there are risks, we're going to be aggressive about making arrests, about pressing charges, and if needing, deporting folks. But I think the much bigger risk is that you'll have a perception that all of the newcomers in the city are dangerous, and nothing could be far.
Nothing could be further from the truth. There's a dangerous perception that these people are pushing out with their mouths when they talk about illegal aliens and how they are wreaking havoc and how they are committing crimes. This mayor is concerned with American speech. The fact that he's concerned about me saying, oh, and calling these people for what they are, illegal aliens, that should disqualify him from office. You're more concerned about what I say about these people than what these people are actually doing. We no longer live in serious times. This voter base of his suffers from Stockholm syndrome, and they're going to sympathize with his stance here, and they're going to say, oh, no human is illegal, no human is illegal. And they're going to keep voting for this guy. So this is happening in Chicago as well. As of today, we still have no mention from Kamala Harris or the alleged president, Joe Biden. I'm sure he's not running anything. How are you running the country from your vacation home in Delaware? I don't know how you're doing that, Joe, but Kamala, she hasn't mentioned the alien takeover in either Colorado, nor has she mentioned the alien takeover in Chicago, which happened last night. 911 call reveals that a group of 32 armed Venezuelan migrant gangsters took over another different apartment building in Chicago. So the urgent 911 call reveals a dangerous situation in Chicago. Approximately 32 armed Venezuelan migrants, they seized control of an apartment complex last night. First Colorado, now Chicago. What's happening in our country? It's freaky. What's happening across the country? And we don't have the commander in chief. We don't have the border czar mentioning this at all. These are acts of terrorism. I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to unpack this a little bit more. I'm going to play that 911 call for you. And it revealing this group of migrants taking over, these gangsters taking over an apartment building now in Chicago. This has already happened in Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. You heard the Aurora, Colorado mayor, Mike Kaufman. He said that, these armed gangs, it can be, attributed to the failed policy at the southern border. Yes, that'd be correct. Whereas comparatively, you have the Mike Johnston, the Denver, Colorado mayor, saying, oh, we shouldn't be calling them illegal aliens. Let's call them newcomers. So we're going to get to that here on Conservative Cap, but we're also going to get to this mixed race voter who says that she is not voting for Kamala Harris and that she can't take Kamala Harris really seriously because she's like this giggling girl and she has these giggling girl moments. And really what she wants is just a leader to deal with these three major international crises that we have going on. We need a commander in chief. We don't need a woman who is, giggling up on stage and is, all about the vibes, the joys, the Converse. Look at Kamala. She's so cool in her Converse. She's just like you. She eats Doritos and has Converse. Sorry, you're not going to win an election that way. All right, I do have to take a break. Conservative Cat Cities, 92.9. morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. As always, you guys can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. My social media is there. You can type in your search bar Conservative Cat Show on YouTube. Subscribe today. Before we took the break, I was telling about the Denver, Colorado mayor. Yes, he was like, oh, the newcomers. Fact check. I'm going to say they're illegal aliens. They're illegal aliens. They're not newcomers. Come on, get out of here with your new speak. And I can't believe that he's more concerned about the feelings of these armed Venezuelan gang members who have taken over not only just Aurora, Colorado apartment buildings, but now last night we've got a 911 call that reveals a group of 32 armed Venezuelan migrants. They have now taken over an apartment building in Chicago. This is a big deal, folks, because this is like... I mean, this is terrorism. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. We don't have Kamala Harris talking about this. We don't have Joe Biden talking about this. This is a big deal because now you have in multiple locations around the country, Venezuelan migrants busting into people's private property and overrunning it. This is quite literally an invasion. And I woke up this morning actually kind of terrified about this story. And that doesn't happen often because I am so used to the news and I'm so used to the carnage that happens all over the country that very rarely do stories spark some sort of fear or invoke some sort of fear out of me. But this one did. Because, I mean, think about it, 10 million illegal crossings. Now under President Donald Trump, there were 3 million. Okay. Under the Biden administration, we're talking 10 million people who have come over the border illegally and are unaccounted for. We have over 30,000, I think it is, unaccounted for children who have crossed over the border. And they're supposed to be placed with foster families, but for some odd reason, we have no idea where they're at now. They've no longer with these foster families. The DHS is supposed to place them. They're not sure where they're at. We're dealing with an invasion, quite literally. And at any moment, now I don't know if they have marching orders or if their leaders, the Venezuelan leaders over in their country, are going to tell these Venezuelan migrants one day, hey, today's the day, take over the country. Or if they're just going to do it in increments where they start taking over apartment building by apartment building by apartment building, and then maybe they start to take over 10 million. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. They'll be able to bust into your house and take over your house, tell you to leave your private property. This is what has happened in both Chicago and Aurora, Colorado. Take a listen to the 911 call. I want to play it here for you on Conservative Cat. Here we go.
Unit 10-3, I'm citywide person with a gun, 6124 South King Drive. Caller says 32 Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles in the courtyard as well. All while they're filled. Nothing further, zone clear.
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry. You headed over to the ShotSpotter or to the 6124 on King for the migrants?
On King Drive.
All right, 10-4. If there's another available unit, arrive at 310. We had multiple calls. First with the gun, 6124 South King. Also came over to disturbance, large gathering. Could be 32 Venezuelans trespassing in the building property, showing guns in the courtyard. They have motorcycles in the courtway, all stairwells filled.
So this is a lot of migrants. They have motorcycles. You heard, hey, are you going over to the shots fired incident? Are you headed over to the gang members in this apartment building where they are armed and where they have motorcycles in the courtyard of this apartment building? Are you headed over there? And the cop says, yeah, I'm headed over there, not the shots fired incident. So this tells you it's pretty serious. This is an act of terrorism. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. Kamala Harris has yet to come out and address these matters that are happening all over the country. Instead, Kamala Harris is having what I like to call girl moments on stage. Okay, so no matter how dependent the left is on vibes and joy, and Kamala Harris doing a campaign video in Converse and buying Doritos, the undecided voters are not going to buy it. They are not going to, it's just not going to cut it for them. They're not going to vote for her just because she wears Converse and buys Doritos. Okay, they're not going to do it. So I'm not sure what they were expecting, MSNBC, when they reached out to these mixed race voters. So mixed race voters, this is so racist. I don't know why media outlets do this. They gather like a bunch of black people and they're like, how are you going to vote? Considering that you're black. Well, I'm going to vote, for things that matter to me, like the economy. Like, why is their skin color or the insignificant birth trait matter when it comes to who they're voting for? I really have never understood that. But MSNBC, they went out and they found a bunch of mixed race people. And turns out one mixed race voter, she really doesn't like the whole Kamala Harris cackle. She thinks it's weird. She says, that's not what she's looking for when it comes to a commander in chief. So these mixed race voters say that she's not really appealing to anybody. They're not fooled by her hyena-like laugh, Kamala Harris. So let's take a listen here. Here's MSNBC. They're asking mixed race voters what kind of kinship they have with the president of the United States or the potential president of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Do you feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander in chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
Do you feel some kinship?
I don't know. My goodness, these people are so racist. MSNBC, like, do you have any kind of kinship? No, I don't know who Kamala Harris is. She's a complete stranger. I do know what her policies are like, and the fact that we have 3 international crises going on. Yeah, I can honestly say that I don't have kinship with her, considering she's making the world a living hell. Okay, so her name is LaMarie Stripling. Austin Stripling. She's a mixed race voter from North Carolina, and she said during the Morning Joe segment on Friday that she doesn't feel some sort of kinship with Vice President Kamala Harris just because they're both mixed race. A group of mixed race voters, including Republican North Carolina Congress candidate Abdul Ali, shared their opinions on Harris and the Republican nominee Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 election. Stripling said she only sees Harris, who herself is a mixed race candidate, giggling and having a girl moment during her public appearances instead of tackling major crises facing the United States. Quote, I found a lot of Harris's trajectory to not be my brand of woman or leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and somebody applying to be the commander in chief. And as a woman, I want to see somebody do more than just appeal or try to appeal, giggling, by giggling or having a girl moment on stage. I'm speaking. Hush, I'm speaking. That's, her girl boss moment, I guess, on stage. It's all about the vibes. Many voters are not as dumb as the left thinks. Okay, this woman is not dumb. A lot of these mixed race voters had similar sentiment. There was a Republican North Carolina congressional candidate there amongst the mixed race voters that the MSNBC were asking, to weigh in on both Kamala and Donald Trump. But this is not a joke. Okay, voters are not happy, and they're not fooled by the platitudes of joy and skin color. None of that really matters to them. And it's unclear why cackling Kamala breaks out in unstoppable laughter the moment that she's asked a serious question. I don't know why she does that, Hyena Harris, but she looks insane when she does it. And that's why these mixed race voters are not buying it. They're not fooled by it because quite literally, she is one of the main reasons why we have these international crises on our hands. The state of this country is not a joke. And Kamala's demeanor shows that she believes otherwise. Every time she's asked a serious question, she busts out laughing. And it's not a joke. This isn't a joke. This is our country. Why does she not prove her competence and her abilities while she's de facto president? We know Joe Biden isn't running anything. He's in Delaware on vacation. Why doesn't she prove that she is good for the country and prove her competence right now? Right now. Kamala's responsible for the worst crises some of the worst crises many voters have seen in their lifetimes. I mean, we're going through like war after war after war after war. You probably haven't even seen this in your lifetime. I'm sure you haven't seen Venezuelan migrants hold up apartment buildings around the country before in your lifetime. She's responsible for that. She's the border czar, and all she can do is laugh, literally laugh in the faces of Americans. I'm not sure about you, but I'm with the so-called mixed vote or mixed race voter here. I hate that they do that. They're like, oh, let's get a bunch of mixed race voters and ask them their opinions on why they're voting for Kamala Harris. Maybe it has something to do with their race. No, I'm voting because, I'm voting this way for my family. I'm voting for the economy. I'm voting for the border. I'm voting for this. I'm voting for that. Even the abortion issue, right? I'm voting for abortion because I had an abortion. I'm voting for abortion because my friend has an abortion, and I think that she should be able to do that. That is a good answer, right? Your experiences and what you go through in life is what you should be voting for, and to make your experiences better. Your insignificant birth rate shouldn't have any bearing on the way you vote. Okay, it's like saying I would vote for a candidate just because they have brown hair because I have brown hair. You know how ridiculous that sounds? It's weird. I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Kamala Harris, she had this pathetic attack on Donald Trump with this Arlington Cemetery thing. But the 8 different Gold Star families, they completely destroyed this attack on Donald Trump because they said, hey, you know what? Kamala Harris, you can stick it up, because this attack on Donald Trump is so silly. We invited him to the Arlington Cemetery, and we invited you, but you failed to show up. Joe Biden failed to show up. He showed up and he paid his respects. And yes, we did ask him to take a photograph with us, but to attack him and say that, oh, he's making this political or he's using these families as a political stunt, that's very wrong, because we actually invited him and we asked him to take a photograph with us. So this isn't a political stunt. Donald Trump quite literally came to Arlington Cemetery to pay his respects. I'm going to debunk that attack that Kamala Harris had waged against Donald Trump over his Arlington Cemetery visit. And I'm going to play the 8 Gold Star families who said, hey, we wanted him there. We wanted him there. All right, I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat.
State Representative Jane Hawkins confirms employees from Logan County Correctional Center have started to transfer to Decatur. Trying to get ahead of this closure. The Illinois Department of Corrections said that they're not currently under a hiring freeze at either Stateville Prison
Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Last week marked the third anniversary of when incompetent Harris Biden Afghanistan withdrawal, when they were at the helm of that. They were in charge of the incompetency, the botched withdrawal, and unfortunately, 13 service members were killed in a terrorist attack. So 8 Gold Star families let Kamala Harris know where she can stick her attack on Donald Trump for being the only one who showed up to pay his respects. Okay, so Donald Trump was invited to Arlington Cemetery. Now, there were cemetery officials, of course, who said that he wasn't supposed to be there and that he barged his way in with his photographers to try to get a photo op with the Gold Star families. Okay, false, 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 false. He was invited to be there. He was asked to take photographs. And of course, they're going to try to spin this as if Donald Trump barged his way in to make this all political stunt for him to, it was politically advantageous for Donald Trump to do this. So he barged his way in there. And in fact, one of the campaign officials for Donald Trump got into a physical altercation with a government worker on the grounds there of the cemetery. And we know that that's complete crap because guess what? No charges have been pressed. And if that happened, release the video. Show us the video of it actually happening. And it turns out that the, grounds official, the government worker, doesn't want to press charges because he fears retribution or retaliation from the Trump campaign. And he doesn't want to press charges because he doesn't want to get into get into a situation where Trump takes revenge on him. Okay. So at this point, it's kind of redundant to list all of the Harris Biden failures, but here are some key points. This was when Joe Biden failed. He offended a pregnant woman, actually, where the widow of a Marine, he was killed in Kabul with this Afghanistan withdrawal. And he actually wound up offending, Joe Biden did, this pregnant woman, pregnant widow of a Marine who died over there, because he started talking about his son, Bo, and he tried to relate her experience to his experience. And that's like 101. That's like good person 101. You don't want to do that. You don't want to make it about you when somebody's grieving. Okay, like that's just like grief 101. Everybody knows that. Everybody with social cues and understanding, but of course he's dementia riddled, and he's kind of a selfish person. Joe Biden is. He refuses to acknowledge his granddaughter. We've been through how he is a terrible person. He clearly does not have a way with animals. His dogs would bite people, and he just allowed his dog to continue to bite people and didn't remove the dog from the White House grounds. And he let the security or the Secret Service just continue to get bit up by these dogs, these German Shepherds. So, he's not a great guy. So that's number one. Okay, now one key point, Harris Biden failures. Number two, would be, this Gold Star mom years ago, she ripped into Joe Biden's response after her Marine son was killed. How could you be so heartless? This is what this Gold Star mom said. How could you be so heartless? My son died over in Kabul with this Afghanistan withdrawal, and you are quite literally checking the time on your watch during his services. When we're putting him into the ground, you checked your watch. Kamala Harris, she cackled as a reporter asked her about the Americans trapped in Afghanistan at the time. They were asking her, about Afghanistan, and she, I don't know if it's a nervous tick or whatever, but she cackled. She cackled when she was asked about the Americans in Afghanistan. So, those are just some key points that I wanted to lay out for you. Hey, do you remember when they did this? Do you remember when Kamala Harris laughed in the face of a reporter who asked about the Americans in Afghanistan? Do you remember Joe Biden checking his watch when they were putting these Marines into the ground, these dead Marines into the ground? Do you remember Joe Biden making it all about his son when speaking to the widow of a Marine who was killed over in this botched Afghanistan withdrawal? So worse than any of this in the eyes of the Democrat Party, worse than, checking your watch during the services for these Marines, worse than laughing at a reporter when asked about the Americans trapped in Afghanistan, worse than all of that to, at least to the Democrat Party and to the media, but I repeat myself, is this incident and fallout was making that this incident in fallout was making Kamala Harris look bad. The worst in all of that is Donald Trump showing up to the ceremony at Arlington Cemetery, and the Gold Star families invited him there, like I said. And I'm guessing after a Democrat strategist sent out emails suggesting that the media report on it this way, they create this controversy about Donald Trump taking photos. I'm sure that the Democrats were like in on it with the media, and they said, "Hey, media, report on it as if he's using these families as a political stunt to try to bolster his campaign. Report on it this way, media. Okay, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Report on it this way." And this is just this bothers me because Joe Biden, the president, was too busy vacationing to be there, by the way. And the vice president was too busy campaigning to be there. Trump was taking pictures with these families because they wanted him to take pictures with them. And they invited him to the ceremony. And they just keep misrepresenting the facts, the media and the Democrat Party. I do have to take a quick break, but I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I am going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I am leaving the state. I'm going to be going down south for a brief vacation, but I will be back up and rolling with the daily program September 16th. September 16th. So I'm going to be gone for a little while, a couple of weeks. But we will have programming on YouTube, Rumble. I'll share it to our social media. Be sure to find Cities 92.9 on Facebook. You can find it there. You can also continue to read breaking news at cities99.com. Also, Hugh Hewitt will be in for me. He's going to be filling in for me, and he's got great content. You guys will be in great hands until I get back September 16th. But you guys have a blessed rest of your day and a great week, and we'll be back at it with the Conservative Cat Show on September 16th. Again, September 16th. And like I said, these 8 Gold Star families, as I was talking about in the last segment, they invited him. They actually asked him to take photographs, and they trolled Kamala Harris's Twitter and her attack on President Donald Trump with videos of themselves talking about how they wanted Trump there and how they actually wanted photographs with Donald Trump. So that's all you really need to know. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you. We'll talk again soon.